The day started off calm, with everyone just going about their usual routine, not really expecting anything out of the ordinary. The patrol car pulled up and came to a stop. Two police officers got out, looking around as they closed their doors. Up ahead, a bunch of guys crowded around someone who was hurt. Earlier, the red-haired thug got slapped after messing with a woman who couldn't speak. Now he was out for payback. He kicked the injured guy, who used to be the captain. An officer hurried over to help out. The lackeys held him down, not giving him any chance to break free. The bully's lips curled up, showing that smug look he always had when he thought he was in control. The guy stood there staring down at, his voice cold as he threatened him. He made it clear, either did what he said or someone else would get hurt. The situation got tense fast and could feel the pressure. He knew he had to make a choice, and everyone around seemed to be waiting for his next move. The captain paused for a moment, unsure of what to do next. That's when the main guy showed up. He kept his cool and stood his ground. He made it clear without messing around. Nobody was getting near that guy. Just one look told everyone he was dead serious, and if anyone tried anything, they'd regret it. The room went quiet for a second, and even the loudmouths in the back kept their distance. The crowd went wild, their cheers echoing through the place. He rushed forward, energy buzzing through him as he went straight into action. He reacted fast, barely thinking. First a kick, then his elbow, all in one quick motion. He dropped 4 guys in seconds with his knee, barely giving them a chance to react. Shai, the leader, looked really angry as he lifted his gun. He realized he was in serious trouble after going after the city guards. Everyone knew there was no coming back from that. Messing with them was basically a death sentence. 3 gunshots rang out. He grabbed the gun right as it went off, his hand moving without even thinking. He thought it was moving way too slow and just smashed it with his bare hand. Rushed forward, gripping a dagger, but the man was faster. He grabbed his wrist before the blade could get close. He knocked the weapon out of the guy's hand and grabbed him by the neck, lifting him up. The guy tried to act tough, but it was clear he was losing control. All that talk about making someone kneel didn't really matter anymore. It was his move now. All eyes were on him, waiting to see what he'd do next. He knocked Zai out cold, slamming him straight into the ground. Zai didn't move, just lying there with foam at his mouth. Everyone else just stood there, frozen, not sure if what happened was even real. A few months ago, the main character ended up with this crazy power. At first, it totally threw him off, but since then, he's been trying to figure out what to do with it. Nobody expected that digging up some old ruins would set off something ancient and dangerous. But when it happened, everything changed, and the whole world got caught up in the disaster that followed. A weird, dark red mist started creeping through every city, moving fast and covering the streets before anyone even realized what was happening. People trapped in the blood mist couldn't handle what it did to them. They lost control, went crazy, and didn't make it out alive. Most of the other living things started turning into scary creatures with weird powers. People started calling them aberrations. Whenever these strange creatures showed up, they turned whole cities into ruins. Everyone started to get nervous, like something bad was about to happen. Missiles flew through the sky and crashed into the city. Dust and smoke filled the place, making it hard to see. One guy who looked pretty rough, almost like a zombie with this weird, messed-up claw for a hand, was searching for. He found himself staring down a group of strange-looking wolves. He kept searching for her. He dug his fingers into the wolf creatures, trying to push them away. He looked worn out as he walked through the broken remains. Each step seemed heavy, like he was barely holding it together. He was still looking everywhere for it. He dragged his feet down the hallway, moving slow and looking totally out of it. He spotted a doll. He rushed over, his mind stuck on. He reached out with his hand, the fingers curled and kind of stiff, almost like claws, getting ready to grab the doll. He paused for a second, switching his hand back to normal before reaching for the doll. As he picked it up, tears quietly rolled down his face. He really wanted to find out where she had gone. 3 days earlier, news started spreading about a strange red mist showing up in different places. People were told to stay calm and not go outside unless they really had to. Most folks just stayed home, checking their phones for updates and waiting to see what would happen next. While the car rolled down the road, a family was inside, taking a quiet drive. In the back seat, the son and daughter had both drifted off, fast asleep as the world passed by outside their window. The soldiers pounded on their car, making it clear they had to get moving right away. The mom sat up front while Dad handled the wheel. He was clearly frustrated, ranting about politicians and not trusting a word they said. In the backseat, the daughter turned to her older brother and admitted she was scared. Her brother tried to keep things calm, reminding her that everyone was together so things would be all right. Meanwhile, Dad kept going, upset about how the army was getting pulled in and how everything was being covered up like it was just some natural disaster. The son looked down as things got pretty wild outside. He started wondering what the crimson mist actually was. Right after that, there was a sudden booming explosion. They didn't see it coming. He quickly moved in front of his sister and shielded her, motioning for her to crouch down. Out of nowhere, another car crashed down right on top of theirs. The son looked at his parents, checking to see if they were okay. The dad let them know his leg was stuck, and at the same time the mom started coughing. She wanted to know what was going on. There was a sudden loud noise that made everyone look up. Their faces showed fear right away. People were sprinting in the other direction, trying to get away from something weird up ahead. The dad didn't waste any time. He told everyone to get out of the car right away. Sunlight blasted straight through the door, lighting up the whole room in an instant. He climbed out of the car and went straight for his mom's door, but it wouldn't budge. She told him to grab his sister and leave, but he wasn't ready to give up. He kept trying, hoping he could get everyone out together. His sister froze when she saw the strange creature getting closer to a man. The guy started yelling for help, his voice echoing through the street. The creature was getting way too close, so their mom pushed him to leave right away. His dad let him know it was up to him to look after his little sister now, since he was the older one. After that, they put in his care. An explosion suddenly went off and sent them flying in different directions. The creature suddenly lunged at their car, yelled out calling for his mom and dad. He needed them right then, panic rising as he realized he couldn't handle this on his own. The creature started getting restless with all the noise going on. Whatever it was, it locked onto them. Thought about running to their parents for help, but before she could move, her brother grabbed her arm and pulled her in the other direction. Everything was a mess. The flying creature came out of nowhere and brought down the military plane. They sprinted down the street, pushing themselves to go faster. As they passed by, they saw animals acting wild and people losing control, like the whole place had gone crazy. The big brother watched everything unfold, totally confused by what was going on. Nothing made sense, and he tried to figure it out, but the whole situation just left him stuck, wondering what he missed. A thick red mist settled over everything as the wolf-like creature started looking for its next target. The siblings squeezed behind a shelf, trying to stay out of sight. Their hearts were pounding as they crouched low, hoping no one would spot them. The brother leaned over and took a quick look. He watched as the wolf turned and left. Finally, it was over, and he could breathe easier knowing the danger had passed. But then, out of nowhere, his sister started acting weird. She grabbed her head like something was off. He noticed something was off with her and wanted to know what was up. She let him know she wasn't feeling well. The brothers glanced at their reflection in the mirror and noticed lines starting to show up on their faces. He figured it probably had something to do with breathing in too much of that weird crimson mist. He grabbed a few things from the shelf and got the cloth wet with some water. He held the cloth over his sister's nose and mouth. Right then something hit him. It hurt, sharp and sudden, catching him off guard. He was burning up, and something inside him started pushing to get out. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't make it stop. Noticed something was off and checked on him, but he brushed it off and said he was okay. Under the table, he struggled to keep his hand from shaking. The wolf-like creature was on the move, its nose twitching as it picked up their scent. It paused for a second, head turned, clearly aware that someone was nearby. He shouted at himself to stop, which made his sister jump. The aberration noticed them. As soon as it did, they took off running, and the creature came right after them. They walked out of the supermarket, bags in hand, ready to head home. He suddenly found his path blocked by a strange creature with wings. There was no way out. They had people closing in from every side. He wrapped his arms around his sister, holding her close and trying to calm her down. He wanted her to know she was safe with him, even though everything around them felt uncertain. The strange creature with wings started flapping hard, making a ton of noise as it let out a loud roar. More of those weird creatures started coming their way. Up above them, a red dragon-looking monster showed up, making everything feel a lot more intense. The brother honestly believed they might not make it out alive. And just so you know, this guy is the main character, so keep an eye on him. He's got some serious luck on his side. The brother grabbed his sister by the arm and pulled her back into the house. It was way riskier to stay outside, so he picked up a stick, thinking this was their best chance. He rushed straight at the wolf-like creature. He snapped the stick in two. The wolf aberration lunged at him, jaws wide and eyes locked on its target, ready to take a bite. He hit the ground hard, struggling to keep its jaws from snapping shut. The creature froze as an arrow came out of nowhere and struck it right in the eye. Spotted a crossbow nearby and quickly grabbed it. She aimed and fired, helping him out just in time. The wolf aberration suddenly turned and went after her. Her brother shouted, telling her to get out of there as fast as she could. She listened to her brother and kept moving forward without looking back. Behind her, her brother was struggling, coughing up blood and hurting badly. It all went down when things were already tough. Lost her balance and hit the ground, with the wolf aberration close behind her. The brother steadied himself against the wall, using it to push himself back up. Out of nowhere, a bright red light blasted straight up into the sky. Chunks of debris crashed down, landing right on top of the wolf. The brother moved fast, holding the wolf down against the ground so it couldn't get back up. He grabbed a piece of rebar and drove it straight into the creature. He kept stabbing the thing again and again, clearly not holding back, almost like he wanted to destroy it for good. Watched from the side, getting nervous about what his brother was doing. She quickly wrapped her arms around him, hoping it would calm him down. She couldn't figure out what was going on with him. She let him know she was okay, so he didn't have to keep going. At the same time, her brother thinks back to when their parents told them to get out of there. Everyone trusted him enough to watch over, so they handed her off and went on their way. His dad promised he'd look after Mom, but told him to stick with and make it through whatever was coming. Right then, Sue called out his name, snapping him back to reality. He looked over and spotted her sister with her arms around him. He said sorry for making her worry about him. She wanted to know if he was okay now. He was about to say he was fine, but then he noticed something strange outside the window. A weird creature with wings was moving towards Sway. He reacted fast, pulling her out of the way just as the attack came at them. The weird creature with wings looked over at them. He swung the rebar and struck it. He just wanted it to stop. His hit made the bird shoot off into the air. He told to stay hidden so he could handle things on his own. Started to get anxious about him going in there by himself. The giant bird monster spotted them, so he stepped up and tried to draw its attention somewhere else. Really didn't want him to leave. She was scared he might lose control just like before. He told her it wasn't going to happen again this time, trying to sound confident so she wouldn't stress about it. He asked her to stay put and promised he'd come back soon. She made him promise to come back safe. He made that promise to her. He took a deep breath and walked outside. He believed that taking down aberrations and soaking up the red energy they left behind would boost his own power. So, when he faced the giant bird, he figured the energy he'd get from it would be on a totally different level. He knew that if he could defeat it, he'd finally be strong enough to keep his family safe. He shouted at the creature, hoping it would just go down. The huge monster stared back at him, completely unfazed. The wolves didn't hesitate. They went right for him. It was almost like he didn't even matter to them. He swung the rebar at the wolves while moving toward the aberration. He hit hard, every move landing with serious force. The wolves didn't attack alone. When he landed a hit on the one facing him, another wolf came up from behind and sank its teeth into his arm. He got so mad that his hands turned into sharp claws. He went after the wolves, swinging at them with those new, tough hands. As he fought, he couldn't help but feel pumped from the rush of power running through him. An aircraft flew overhead, and the big aberration looked up, clearly noticing it. He watched it take off and just stood there, not really sure what was going on. The guy snapped back to reality, trying to piece together what just happened to him. Out of nowhere, a missile shot straight toward him. Right then, stepped outside, checking to see if he was all right. He totally freaked out, raising his voice and telling her to stay back. The missile blew up. The aircraft spotted a few people who looked like they made it through whatever happened. The pilot brought the plane down nearby, wanting to see if those folks were okay. They spotted a guy who was clearly infected, so they decided to leave him behind. Instead, they brought the girl with them. His eyesight was still blurry, but he could make out his sister getting rushed onto the plane. The soldiers moved fast, knowing those monsters would show up any minute. He reached out his hand, fingers curled and shaky, watching the aircraft disappear into the sky. Everything started to fade, and soon he blacked out. Shay's eyes started to water as she called for her brother. She was surrounded by flames, staring at him with pain in her eyes, silently asking why he hadn't helped. He reached out, his hands shaking and desperate, but she had already disappeared. Suddenly, he snapped awake. He had that dream again. Even after 6 months, he was still looking for her. At least no one caught him off guard while he was sleeping. Now, with a machine gun in his grip, he stepped out of the building, ready for whatever was next. When got taken by those guys, he checked out every shelter around town. He didn't find her anywhere. He signed up for the border patrol, which was pretty much the lowest spot in the army, hoping it would help him find his sister. In a world that messy, only the military had the power to dig up information and move around without getting stopped. So even though he was just another rookie, it was the only shot he had. He showed up at the city border outpost, taking in the scene around him. He walked up to Jun, the captain of the city patrol, and said sorry for being late. Jun kicked him. He was pretty annoyed because the guy slacked off again and showed up late for his shift. He climbed up a tall ladder, trying to focus on what he was doing. In the background, someone mentioned that once the big bosses showed up, everyone could finally head home. As he kept climbing, Jun shot him a look, making it clear that if he messed things up, things were going to get a lot harder for him. 6 months back, everything changed when this red mist exploded across the land. Cities got wrecked fast, and now those places are crawling with weird creatures. Not long after, a strange red tower popped up right in the middle of it all. The people who made it out alive have been pushed way out to the edges, far from the tower and the mist, just getting by however they can. He stood on a high spot, looking out over the ruined city below. The place was a mess, and he couldn't help but think about that massive aberration. Was it still lurking somewhere down there? The thought stuck in his mind as he kept scanning the wrecked buildings and empty streets. Jun figured the special response team had already shown up, so all that was left for them was to just do what they were told. He knew that if things went sideways, guys like them wouldn't really be able to change anything anyway. They were chatting about the well-known special response team. The guy was curious, so he asked what made the other person believe the team would mess up. The unit had been taking down aberrations non-stop on their way there. While he sat on the edge of the cliff, the main guy couldn't stand the nasty smell of the red mist floating around. That fog had a way of messing with everyone's heads, making creatures nearby act wild and go after each other. He watched as the red mist slowly pulled apart, clearing the way in front of him. He noticed something coming straight at them. One of the soldiers realized something wasn't right and aimed his weapon at the captain. The captain wasn't having it and told him off for causing trouble. The guys looked up and noticed a thick red mist rolling in their direction. It crept along the ground, getting closer every second. Their hearts started pounding as they realized something strange was about to happen. The special response unit rushed over to where they were. The guys wanted to know what was going on, but the men just shouted and told them to stay away. The captain gave the signal, telling the team to pull back. As everyone started moving, the guys from the special unit disappeared into the thick red mist. The captain suddenly yelled when his clothes snagged on something. The creature looked like something out of a nightmare, its claws grabbing onto his hood. For a moment, he really believed this was it. He wasn't getting out of this one. The MC stood near the edge of the cliff when he suddenly caught the sound of people screaming below. He didn't waste any time and dropped down right away. He dropped down right on top of the weird creature and took it out. The other one noticed the noise and started looking his way. His hands started to change again. The other monster lunged at him, jaws wide open, ready to bite. He tore the head right off the body. He reached out and pulled in a red energy from it. After taking it in, he noticed he felt a bit stronger than before. Now he was curious, wondering what might happen if he tried absorbing a couple more. 6 weird-looking creatures closed in around him. His hopes started to climb. Before he even had a chance to react, a powerful laser shot out and blasted those weird creatures. He tried to figure out who might be out there. When Song showed up, the woman with silver hair definitely didn't expect to see him there. He was the captain of the Blazing Blood Detachment, someone people didn't usually run into without a reason. He spotted the uniform right away and realized it was someone from the Special Response Unit. He could tell this wasn't going to end well for him. He needed to switch back fast, gave the order, making it clear that nobody was supposed to make it out alive. Guys from her crew closed in around him. He lifted his hands so everyone could see he wasn't a threat. He let them know he was private from the patrol team. Even after that, as the clock hit noon, the men pulled the trigger. Their target wasn't the guy in front, but the strange thing lurking behind him. The Special Response Unit team checked things out and saw that the target was down. Moved ahead. The guy wanted to know where his weapon was. Right then, he realized he was in big trouble. Before could say anything, the guy from the Special Response team got a message telling everyone to pull back from the outpost and head to the temporary defensive line. Nobody could get in unless Officer Song said it was okay. Inside the tent, listened as the numbers came in. 37 people had been lost at the sector outpost. 2 of them were from the Special Response Unit's Ember Blood Squad, while 30 were from the patrol team. The rest of the report wrapped up, leaving to take in the heavy news. Hao couldn't stop himself from asking. He didn't really understand why they were holding him. Deep down, he thought he was just caught up in everything, like he was another person who got dragged into the mess. Told him that back in 1723, he'd left his spot without permission and was gone for about 2 hours. When he finally showed up again, that's when the Crimson Mist riot broke out. Then waited, giving him a chance to share his side of the story. He tried to think fast, searching for a way to explain himself. At first, his words got tangled, but then he managed to say he'd just taken a nap in the old ruins nearby and had already told their captain. His teammate complained about him being late to every mission, and it bothered him that the captain never seemed to care. That guy really got on his nerves. The guy shot him a deadly glare, making it clear he wasn't messing around. You could tell he meant business, and if the other dude kept running his mouth, things were going to get ugly. At the same time, the man made it clear, don't you dare try to blame the captain for any of this. Started to notice that his patrol team had some real issues. Just then June sneezed, almost like he knew people were talking about him. He was covered in bandages from head to toe, looking like he'd just lost a fight with a tornado. Even though he looked rough, the doctor told everyone he'd be fine, nothing serious going on. All his test results were pretty standard, nothing weird. Still, the guy sitting next to him kept glancing over, not totally buying that everything was as normal as the doctor said. Sat in the tent, flipping through the file. He noticed it said he'd only finished basic training 3 months back. Thinking about the last fight, he remembered that even the Special Response guys lost 2 of their own, but somehow made it out alive. Admitted he was really scared of dying. Back in school, he'd been on the track team so he could run faster than most people. When the Crimson Mist started rolling in, he didn't think twice. He just took off, sprinting as fast as he could. She wanted to know why he'd even think about joining the army, especially since everyone knew he was scared of dying. She wondered if there was another reason he wanted to sign up, something he hadn't shared yet. For 6 months, he kept tracking you down, taking out low-level monsters along the way and absorbing their power. Bit by bit, he got better at switching between his human side and his beast form, learning how to control both. For 6 months, he kept to himself, steering clear of everyone. He stuck to the basics, checking out every wrecked building he came across and stopping by every place where people might still be hanging around. Didn't hold back her judgment. She thought he was just trying to save his own skin, frustrated that he'd left his spot when things got tough. To her, it was even worse that he kept quiet about what he knew. She figured he understood what could happen next. He wondered if she was about to end things for him. Leaning in close, she quietly mentioned his hands, making it clear she'd noticed what was up. She wondered why he wasn't telling the truth and tried to figure out what he was really after. Right when they were talking, the ground started to rumble, cutting them off. She figured it was just another earthquake shaking the ground, but knew better. He recognized that rumble right away. He got to his feet fast and signaled for her to get moving. Something worse than an earthquake was coming, the sound of a whole crowd of aberrations closing in. She got pretty irritated when he tried to take take off right in front of her. She barely seemed to exist to him, so she took him down fast. The guys with her started to freak out, thinking she was going too far. They told her to chill out. The ground started shaking under everyone's feet, and then, just like that, it gave out, and his friends dropped into a pitch-black space. Turns out they'd ended up underground. It was nearly impossible to see anything, so decided they needed some light and told everyone to switch it on. Had a reputation for bringing trouble wherever he went. People around him always seemed to expect something bad to happen. He just shrugged off their complaints, thinking they could talk all they wanted once they were safe. Still, no one was sure they'd actually make it out. The group switched on their light stick and the place lit up, showing a messed up maze in front of them. Something weird must dug it out. Trying to keep everyone steady, reminded the guys to stay cool and check their weapons just in case. The team kept close, making sure no one got left behind or surprised from behind. Suddenly, a strong breeze swept through and noticed it right away. The guy standing next to him noticed he kept looking over and wanted to know what was up. He said he thought he heard the wind. The other guy figured it was probably just coming from outside, so he went over to check things out. The guy was pretty pleased as he let everyone know there was actually a breeze. He couldn't help but give some credit. Sure, the kid could be annoying, but he definitely knew how to break out of places. Up ahead, the man noticed a bit of light shining through. He felt a rush of excitement when he realized there was a way forward. Caught up in the moment, he didn't see the weird creature sneaking up from behind. Saw it and shouted for him to duck. She didn't waste any time. She aimed and took out the monster in one shot, its head dropping to the ground. The green liquid came really close to hitting him. He knew that stuff from the beetles could burn through almost anything. She got annoyed at the guy for jumping in on his own, making it clear she wanted him to wait for her say-so next time. Kept playing it safe and she picked up on it right away. She let him know that after they got out, he owed her an explanation, no dodging it. Started thinking about what she might be up to. She already knew his secret, but for some reason she hadn't said anything about it yet. Suddenly, a noise caught their attention. Right away, everyone knew something was up. Not long after, a swarm of weird creatures started heading their way. The bugs started crawling out of the holes. Things were looking bad. The bugs slowly made their way closer to them. They started shooting at it. They ran off quickly, hearts pounding, barely looking back. Picked up on something off, caught sight of him and shouted for him to keep going, not to slow down. Still, realized the swarm wasn't moving anymore. The guys noticed something up ahead. This thing was huge, way bigger than anything they'd seen before. Everyone knew it was called a Dominator class, and somehow it had sucked up all the crimson mist around it. The crimson mist started swirling around, getting pulled in until it turned into pure energy. Pointed out the thing and made it clear to everyone that they needed to keep their eyes on it. Whatever it wasn't safe, and he wanted everyone to stay alert. Raised his arm and took a shot at it. At that moment, the energy burst out. The thing took a direct hit, spotted the energy coming straight at her, and just stopped in her tracks. Luckily, he managed to block the attack just in time, using his transformed hand. She didn't see it coming. He explained to her that once they get through this, it means they're still breathing. He decided he'd clear things up for her soon. Then he changed his other hand as well. She started to worry when her attack didn't do anything at all. Doubts crept in about whether he actually had a plan. Still, she hoped he'd watch out for himself. He gave a quick nod, agreeing without much hesitation. He ran straight toward it. Seeing this Dominator-class aberration made him think back to the last time he faced one. The memory came rushing in, and he couldn't help but compare this creature to the one before. Monsters weren't all the same. They had their own rankings, starting with Scout class at the bottom. Then came Hound class, followed by Dominator class. Above that was Colossus class, and at the very top, the most dangerous of them all was Catastrophe class. He started to wonder just how much stronger he might get after taking in that power. As soon as his attack landed, he could tell this thing was seriously tough. Normally, a regular beast wouldn't have lasted this long. It would have been shredded by now. The thing in front of him looked like a huge, armored tank. Judging by its size, he figured it had probably taken down plenty of others like him before. The creature went after him, but he managed to dodge it without much trouble. Honestly, he thought it moved pretty slow. He started to wonder if maybe it focused everything it had on defense instead of speed. It just kept shifting around, never staying in one spot. The other two guys started shooting at it, but they just stood there, stunned at what they were seeing. He was the dude who could outrun anyone, always way out in front. But deep down, nothing scared him more than the thought of dying. Everyone started to wonder what kind of person really was. Let them know he was actually part of a secret project by the Special Unit United Government, created to fight off alien beasts. Nobody expected that the guy who struggled for 3 months just to get through basic training could be some kind of anti-beast combat experiment. He was always the first to bolt whenever things got scary, always outpacing everyone else. Now, people started wondering if he'd known about this all along. Told them she only realized it earlier when he jumped in and blocked the beast's attack for her. Stood there without saying anything. As the deputy officer of the Crimson Blood Expedition Squad, he couldn't help but question whether the special unit actually had experimental subjects like people claimed. Part of him wondered if maybe his captain was keeping secrets from the rest of the team. She told him that the guy had broken out of the lab, and no one thought he'd end up with the border patrol. The man wanted to know if that last Crimson Mist problem was his fault. She said it was possible, so she had to check him out herself. She let the guy know that what he was about to see was strictly for the special unit, and he shouldn't go around telling anyone about it. She checked to make sure the patrol soldier got the message. He nodded, showing he understood. The big monster started charging up energy in its mouth again. The creature let go of the tightly packed orb of energy. Things were definitely taking a turn for the worse. He signaled for the three to get out of the way. The thing dropped and landed on the ground, managed to dodge just in time. The patrol soldier couldn't believe was still standing after what just happened. Had stepped in earlier, pulling out of the way to make sure he didn't get hit. The patrolman noticed his leg was hurt. Let him know he wasn't going to die. The patrolman was surprised. He never thought someone from such an elite squad would risk so much for an ordinary soldier like him, but just shrugged it off, thinking that losing a leg to save someone's life was totally worth it. The patrolman felt uneasy. His job was to hunt down dangerous beasts, and now he couldn't rely on one of his main fighting skills. Deep down, he remembered why he became a soldier in the first place. It wasn't just about taking out monsters. He lived to protect people. As the last line of defense for everyone, leaving someone behind just wasn't an option for him. The patrolman didn't even know what to say. Got tossed aside by the monster landing hard. He was worn out. The Crimson Mist's power was pretty much gone. At this point, he couldn't even keep one arm changed anymore. He faced off with a Dominator-class Steel Shield Thorn Bug. That's when it hit him just how tough these things really were. The Dominator-class Steel Shield Thorn Bug let out a loud roar that echoed across the area. It locked onto Hao, its eyes narrowing as it picked him out from the crowd. The ball smacked into the side. The message popped up on his screen, and when he checked, he saw that it was from. She shouted at, telling him not to give up. There was still a lot he needed to clear up, and she wasn't ready for things to end like this. The Dominator-class Steel Shield started laughing. Spotted something strange. She watched as a dark red mist started pouring out from the cave. Because the tunnels were all connected, the mist could move through them from other spots without any problem. Because of that, the bug started to get its energy back. She noticed its wound slowly closing up. If things kept heading that way, it would get back to full strength. She figured out that the strange red mist that suddenly burst out at the outpost earlier was its work. She realized there was no way they could beat the thing, so she told him they should just get out while they still had the chance. But he wasn't having it. He stayed put, determined to take it down no matter what. Bringing out the red mist gave him a boost. With the mist stuck in place, this was the perfect moment for them to go on the offensive. If they didn't make it in time, that place would be his last. He had been through some seriously rough times before, so walking through hell again didn't really faze him anymore. She nodded, realizing he was right, and went for it. There wasn't really any other option left. She got ready to use everything she had, aiming to break through the armor on its head. Once she made an opening, would step in and finish the job, making sure the thing wouldn't get back up. That was the one thing they had to do to beat it. She pulled the trigger, bullets flying. Right then, moved in on the monster. His hit landed hard and broke the head armor. Hao didn't waste any time. He came in right after and landed his own hit straight on the thing's head. He kept going after it, not letting up with his attacks. Green liquid started to drip from its body. Stood there, watching to see if what they did actually worked. The hat slipped off his head. He hit the ground hard. She hurried over to him right away. She looked over at him, checking if he was okay after seeing something drop right on him. He was holding a photo, and she completely missed the black crystal resting on his hand. The thing pressed hard into his palm. At first, everything felt foggy in his mind. He didn't really get what was going on. After a while, he noticed himself, almost like he was watching from the outside, but no matter how hard he tried, his body just wouldn't listen. He noticed his body had totally changed into something wild, something not human. He didn't really get what was happening or why he was doing any of it. For a second, he thought maybe this was what people meant when they said your whole life flashes before your eyes. Then, out of nowhere, he spotted this weird, glowing DNA floating in front of him. After a while, he noticed his body wasn't stuck anymore. He slowly realized he could move again, and relief started to set in. He noticed a strange pressure on his chest. The crystal that had been inside the huge monster now sat right on his chest. It looked kind of like it was made of energy, glowing in a way he couldn't quite explain. He remembered just holding it a moment ago and couldn't figure out how it ended up stuck to him like that. It all felt weird, and he tried to make sense of what just happened. After that, it pulled in the dark red mist, making it disappear. Now the power didn't just soak up the crimson fog, it kept it locked away, too. That meant even if he pushed himself harder and took in more of that weird mist, he didn't have to stress about losing it anymore. It was like having a backup plan. If things ever got out of hand, the power would pull the mist right back and clear his head. He wanted to take in the strange power right away without holding back. If he did, he'd get stronger. He realized there was no need to keep track of every time he took down an enemy. But when he found out the crystal could only hold so much, he felt let down. If he kept going, the thing would probably just explode. Right then, something popped into his head. The bug made its final move, soaking up a ton of crimson mist. Since it could take in all that mist, he pulled it together, concentrating it. At the same time, his body lay still on a hospital bed. Red fog started to seep out from his chest, swirling quietly in the room. After a while, he slowly blinked awake. He pulled the red fog together in his hand, watching as it twisted and swirled around his fingers. Walked in just then and spotted him right away. She froze for a second, her heart racing as she saw what he was up to. Not knowing what else to do, she tried to figure out what was happening, but he just raised his voice and told her to move. She felt stuck, not sure if she should listen or try to help. The energy suddenly exploded, blasting out in every direction. About 5 minutes earlier, the patrolman let know what happened to Sleg. Just nodded, reminding him that was a soldier and knew what he was getting into. She didn't want the patrolman to beat himself up over it. Walked into the hospital room. Was curious about, he'd never heard anything about the special unit using test subjects before, and it didn't really add up for him. She said the case was top secret, then grabbed his tablet. She told him to just focus on getting better and not stress about anything else. She let him know she'd already asked for him to switch over to the logistics team at the main office. That meant he'd finally be able to take it easy for a while and not run himself ragged like before. He said he'd go straight to her dad, Chief Staff Song, and tell him everything just like it happened. He figured her dad would know what to do. She got really mad, remembering she was still his boss. After that, he couldn't message anyone or go out at all. He was basically stuck, with no way to talk to anyone or leave his room. After that, she headed straight over to his room in Ward 314. They walked into his room. She told the patrolman to stand at the door and keep watch. Nobody could come in unless she said so. When she opened the door, stood there with his hand glowing, like he was getting ready for something serious. He didn't expect to run into her at all. When he saw her, his eyes went wide and he froze for a second, trying to figure out if he was seeing things. It totally caught him off guard, and for a moment he just stood there, not sure what to do next. She saw him messing around with something and wondered what he was up to. He looked pretty stressed and started shouting for her to move, clearly not in the mood for any questions. He lost his grip on the energy, and it burst out all at once. She quickly dropped down, dodging it just in time. The blast of energy was so strong that even the patrolman standing outside couldn't stay on his feet. He lost his balance and hit the ground. The thing flew right through 3 buildings, tearing straight through the last one and splitting it in half. Looked out the window and noticed the old, empty building had a big hole in it. He started to think maybe he was responsible for that. If that was true, he couldn't help but wonder how long would be able to keep everything under wraps. The patrolman's hands shook as he realized he was stuck with the worst job. He couldn't help but think about how unlucky he was, and the fear got to him fast. Not wanting anything bad to happen, he grabbed his radio and called for backup. Noticed right away that was pulling off the same move the bug had used earlier. That got her thinking. She couldn't figure out how was able to use an aberration's powers straight up, without needing any special armor or gear. She let him know that he still had some explaining to do. They headed up to the hospital rooftop, trying to figure things out together. The city stretched out below them while they talked about everything on their minds. It was quiet up there, away from all the noise inside, and it felt like the only place they could really think. She found out that he could do more than just take in an aberration's beast core. He could actually pick up its powers, too. He also realized he could take in and hold even more of the crimson mist now, and the crystals seemed to fix themselves on their own. She smiled when he pointed out that he had a lot going on. He knew he'd picked up their strength and powers, but deep down, he couldn't shake the thought that he was slowly turning into one of them. He started to wonder if he even counted as a real person anymore. He wanted to know what she thought of him, hoping her answer would make things clearer. She told him he was different from everyone else. Whether he turned out to be a good guy or something people were afraid of really came down to what he decided to do with his abilities. She understood that his power could mess things up big time, but it was also something he could use to fight back. She laid it out straight for him. He could sign up with the Blazing Blood and work as a backup in her squad, or he'd get marked as a danger and taken out, no different from the monsters they usually hunt. He wanted to know what happened with the elimination, but she came clean. No one in the city, not even her, could pull that off. Still, the idea that he could take on the special unit by himself was just too cocky. She pointed out that joining her squad would actually help him out. He'd get better status, more intel, and access to resources. Plus, she promised she'd have his back if anything went down. He found it kind of funny that she was ready to team up with someone she barely knew, especially when his powers weren't exactly easy to handle. He could tell she was putting a lot on the line, and the way she went out of her way to get him on board made it obvious she had something else in mind. She noticed right away that he was sharp. Soon after, she let him know she needed his help for something important. She made sure he understood they were on the same side, not going against each other. She suddenly came up with an idea. He started looking at it like it was just a trade. Nothing complicated, just something you give and get back, like swapping game cards or sharing snacks during lunch. He didn't expect her to pull out a picture of him and his sister. That caught him off guard. She let him know she wasn't someone to take lightly. Digging into his past would be easy for her. After that, she explained that if he decided to join Blazing Blood, she'd put the group's top intel and resources behind him to help track down his sister. He started to realize that just doing things on his own without any help or direction wasn't really cutting it. There was only so much he could figure out by himself. Thinking back to what she said, he knew that moving up in the military would actually open more doors for him. With a higher rank, he'd have a lot more freedom to look into stuff and get into places places that were off-limits before. It would definitely make things a lot less complicated. He went along with the deal, but pointed out that if she needed his help this badly, there should be something extra in it for him. She knew she should probably pay him more. He'd already told her that all the money he'd earned before was gone because he'd been searching everywhere for his sister. As captain of the Blazing Blood, she gave him the green light to join up as a reserve soldier. He was set to get the best pay and perks they offered. After that, she pretty much told him to get moving and finish all the paperwork. He did what he was told and made his way over to the patrol team, ready to take care of the transfer right away. But just as he was about to head out, she suddenly remembered something important. She covered the cost for everything he messed up at the hospital, but now he'd see that money coming out of his paycheck. She remembered her uncle, and that pushed her to try even harder to help him. Stared at the bill, still surprised he actually had to pay for it in the end. Started to think he might be the one who could actually bring an aberration back to being human. A few days later, the city's patrol team headquarters was buzzing with activity. Found out the other patrolman was headed to the special response unit just like him. The patrolman liked to talk about how the captain and deputy respected him. Even though he just joined the logistics team, he was sure they'd all get along and work well together. Can't even recall the guy's name. Honestly, he never really noticed him before. Out of nowhere, the man noticed Captain Jun. He looked fine now, back to normal. Looked over at him. Jun's right arm and left leg were messed up, both broken from the fight. That big, strong guy still remembered hitting Jun, all because of that woman who couldn't speak. Jun looked desperate, almost like a stray dog, as he pleaded with the city defense team for his squad members' pension. But instead of getting help, he got kicked by the captain of Kaikai's city defense team. The patrolman's face twisted with anger as he spotted them. Without thinking twice, he rushed straight at the group, ready to take them on. The two guys grabbed him and held him back. He struggled, trying to get free, wanting them to let the captain go. Grabbed Jun by the jaw and spat right in his face. Then, without holding back, he made Jun get down on his knees and ordered him to clean the mud off his shoes with his tongue. He knew the guy meant business. If the kid didn't listen, he'd end up with a broken arm, and that injury would be the only thing helping him get around. Jun clenches his jaw, trying to stay calm. He almost dropped down to his knees, reached down and helped him back up, letting him know that kneeling wasn't necessary. The guy hadn't expected to do that, so seeing him step in like that really caught him off guard. Remembered all the times he'd gotten help before, so now he figured it was only fair to return the favor. He stepped forward, making sure everyone knew he was there. He made it clear that if anyone even tried to mess with the captain, there'd be serious trouble. Nobody doubted he meant it. Everyone got pissed off. The guys rushed at him, thinking he was asking for trouble. He moved fast, dodging every one of them. He took down the first guy with a quick kick, and then used his elbow to hit the next one. He aimed a quick kick at the third guy's knee, trying to throw him off balance. He swung at the fourth guy, and landed a punch right in his stomach. The last guy slammed into the wall, and just like that, all four of them were on the ground. Someone standing behind started calling out, saying their captain was only an E-rank warrior and warning that he'd pay for what he did. Watching everything happen couldn't help but be impressed. He didn't expect to drop his opponent so quickly. 4 seconds flat, started thinking about how someone could move that fast. She raised the gun and aimed it straight at. He just stared, not really believing that someone from the patrol team actually had the guts to stand up to the city guard like this. He pulled the trigger 3 times, sending bullets flying straight at him. Reached over and picked up the gun, showing off just how fast he could shoot. Barely waited. The gun just wasn't fast enough for him. Without breaking a sweat, he squeezed it in his hands until it broke apart. He pointed out that the guy's speed didn't even come close to us, not even by a little. His anger boiled over, and without thinking twice, he reached for his dagger. Reached out and took his hand. He tossed the weapon aside and grabbed Char by the neck. In his head, he remembered how this guy had wanted the captain to get down on his knees. He held on, and that made Shai really nervous. How shot him a glare. He let the guy know it was his turn, then slammed him hard, sending him straight to the ground. He hit the ground, knocked out cold foam at the corners of his mouth. The guys around him stared, stunned. They just saw him dodge a bullet and then squeeze a regular pistol until it broke, all with his own hands. No one really knew what to say after witnessing something that wild. Started to notice that the beast core had made him way stronger than he ever thought possible. It wasn't just a small boost. He could feel the difference in every move he made. The defense team took one look at him and called him a monster before taking off, not even bothering to stick around. He picked up the crutch from the ground, and a patrolman walked over, kind of impressed, comparing him to some unstoppable fighter. The patrolman checked if he was all right, but he shrugged it off, saying his body could handle it. Handed the crutch back to Jun, who tried to thank him but didn't think he deserved any thanks. He'd always looked out for Jun, and standing up for him was just what he was supposed to do. Still, Jun couldn't help but get anxious, worrying that the city defense team might come back to mess with him. The patrolman told him. Ever since and him joined the special response unit, the city defense team pretty much left them alone. Nobody wanted to mess with them now. Later that night in city, the special response unit set up their temporary base. Checked in with the team, wanting to make sure all the paperwork from the handover was finished. He said yes, and she let him know she'd already sent his application to join the team to headquarters. Turns out they'd given him the green light. He couldn't help but notice how fast they worked, it actually caught his attention. He wondered if this meant he was finally in, but she let him know not to get ahead of himself just yet, since the real test was still coming up. He needed to head out right away and make his way to the headquarters in. There, he'd have to take part in the entry test for the Special Response Unit's combat division. She figured he was strong enough that passing the test wouldn't be hard for him. He didn't just think he'd make it, he was sure he could even break the record. Stood there taking in everything around him. The place felt different, but he tried to stay cool, keeping his hands in his pockets and looking around. It was the kind of moment where you just want to figure things out before making any moves. The armored vehicle rolled forward. Let know that was where the special unit operated from. That city was also home to Blazing Blood's main base. Learned that you had to be at least a D-rank warrior to join the Blazing Blood group for real. Curious about how those ranks worked, he asked for more details. Looking at the patrolman next to him, couldn't help but notice how scrawny the guy seemed. He still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that he was actually going through Blazing Blood's test. The patrol guy just shrugged and acted like he could handle getting knocked around. Explained that he was joining the logistics team instead of the combat team, so he didn't have to do the combat assessment. The patrolman let know that the logistics crew actually fought with the combat team, not just behind the scenes, so at some point might need his help. Since they had a long trip ahead, decided to use the time to pick up some info. She told him that people with special powers like hers are called warriors. These warriors get ranked by how strong they are in a fight. There are 6 levels, starting from E and going up to A at the Special Response Unit headquarters. They use their own ranking system, focusing mainly on things like physical strength and stamina. Aberrations had their own ranking system, going from the weakest to the most dangerous. The lowest level was called Scout Class, then came Hound Class, followed by Overlord Class. After that was Behemoth Class, and at the very top was Calamity Class, which was the worst kind anyone could run into. Most of the time, an E-rank warrior could take down a Scout-class monster without too much trouble. D-rank guys were tough enough to handle the Hound-class ones. If someone was C or B-rank, they could go head-to-head with the Overlord-class creatures. A-rank warriors were strong enough to deal with Behemoth-class monsters. But when it came to the really massive threats, the Calamity-class, only S-rank warriors stood a chance. Hao found out that the way someone connects with a beast core can actually change their rank. Curious about it, he decided to ask more about how this beast core thing works. He went on to say that in the world these days, only strange creatures changed by the Crimson Mist ended up with powers. Regular people, like the warriors, didn't just get abilities out of nowhere. They had to work for it. The only way they could unlock any special skills was by connecting themselves to the core of one of those mutated beasts, using something called a beast core armament. Without that, humans just stayed normal. Things like how fit he was, how much talent he had, and even his luck all played a part in how well he could connect with a beast core. If his affinity was high, he could unlock more powerful abilities and more of them too. But if he couldn't connect to a beast core at all, the best he could ever reach was E-rank, no matter how hard he tried. The military truck came to a halt. One of the guys from the city's defense team let them know the street ahead was blocked because of traffic, so they'd have to find another way around. Nobody expected these guys to step up and block the special response team. The city defense guys tried to explain that they were just doing their own job, so they really couldn't back down. A white car drove past, its door marked with a green logo shaped like twisting vines. Noticed someone important from the Green Vine group hanging around, which immediately caught her attention. It didn't seem normal, and she could sense that something was off. About an hour later, everyone gathered at the Blazing Blood entry assessment spot. The guy up front started talking, making it clear that Blazing Blood was the group people relied on the most. They protected everyone when things got dangerous, and if there was a tough job that needed real strength, they were the ones to handle it. The guys waiting in line could feel how serious this was. Joining Blazing Blood wasn't just about signing up for any club. It was about stepping up where it mattered. Ling was the head examiner for Blazing Blood, and everyone knew he was an A-rank warrior. He never bothered with where people came from or who they knew. Once someone stepped into his place, they had to follow his rules, no exceptions. He let everyone know that nobody was getting special treatment. It didn't matter who someone was. If they couldn't keep up, they had no place in Blazing Blood. The first thing on the schedule was the physical assessment. The first challenge was a 100-meter dash, but this wasn't any normal race. Everyone had to carry 50 kilograms. Hao took off fast and pushed himself hard, crossing the finish line in just 5.1 seconds. Next up was the dumbbell that used magnets to make it heavier. Stepped up, and to everyone's surprise, picked up the 100-kilogram weight like it was no big deal. People around him couldn't help but stare, not expecting him to be that strong. Next up was the striking power test. For him, it was honestly a breeze. He hit the testing machine so hard that it stopped working, so nobody could even see what his score was supposed to be. 10 minutes later, he let the head examiner know he was done with all the events. Checked his score, saw the number pop up, and let everyone know he got 198 points. Everyone was caught off guard because the old rookie record was just 140. A few people thought maybe he didn't play fair. Noticed someone coming over looking a bit serious. The guy brought up the rookie record, saying it was set at 140 points. Jin, the younger brother of City's defense team captain, couldn't stand the fact that had broken the record. It just didn't sit right with him. Explained that he had watched over the whole thing himself, making sure everything was recorded. He felt annoyed, thinking the other guy was blaming him for letting sneak in. Jin shook his head, acting like he wouldn't even try it, but deep down he was definitely interested. The guy wanted to know if was with the city patrol. Didn't really get why he was being asked that, but he just said he was. He acted friendly, saying he just wanted to say hi because they both came from the same place. But underneath that, he was already thinking up something bad for the kid. He remembered how his older brother had been embarrassed and wanted to get back at the people responsible. When heard that they were both from the same town, it caught his attention. Let him know that the guy's name was Jin, someone known for being one of the wealthy kids on the city defense team. He wondered if there was any chance he'd met Jin before, but there was. After finding out the guy was from the defense team, he started to see the whole city defense team differently. It hit him that the group wasn't as solid as people thought, and most of them were actually pretty shady. Later, stood up in front of everyone and started reading out the results from the physical test. San ended up in 30th place with 89 points, and everyone listened as more names and numbers followed. Things got more interesting when it was time to announce the top spots. Jin grabbed 3rd place with 123 points, which got a few impressed looks. Jin managed to score even higher, landing in 2nd place with 135 points. Ended up taking the top spot with 198 points. A woman stood there, clearly enjoying herself. She'd just shown up to check out the assessment, not expecting anything serious, but seeing such a strong new guy caught her off guard. Curiosity lit up in her eyes, and she was already thinking about how she could learn more about him. That was Jin, a senior researcher from the Technical Intelligence Bureau. Jin sat alone in his dorm room, chatting with someone on his tablet. He couldn't help but feel a little down about not getting 1st place. He was pretty annoyed, saying 2 monsters just popped up out of nowhere. But the person on the phone didn't seem to care much and basically said his brother wouldn't even get a shot at the assessment if he wasn't working for the Green Vine Group. They told him he only had 1 shot at this, so he couldn't mess up. He was set on joining Blazing Blood, all for his brother, and the whole thing was happening at the Beast Core testing station. Tried to calm everyone down, saying the test was simple. Just put on the wrist guard and see what happens. He grabbed the Beast Core and set it down where it was supposed to go, ready to start the test. Anyone whose Beast Core affinity didn't hit 40% was instantly kicked out. He went over what a Beast Core actually was, since not everyone might know. Basically, only the really dangerous monsters called aberrations, at least Hound class or higher, could make these cores. The tougher the monster, the better the Beast Core you get from it. If you stuck a Beast Core into a special weapon called an aberration armament, you could pull off crazy moves, almost like the monsters themselves. Most of the black quality Beast Cores came from Hound class and Overlord class aberrations. The colors showed how rare and powerful they were. Black was the lowest, then rust red, blood red, pink, and gold was the absolute best. Everyone connects with Beast Core in their own way. Depending on that connection and the skills they're born with, people unlock all kinds of abilities. Some guys get powers over things like fire or water, some get super strength, and others can help out or support their team in different ways. The wrist guard was the most basic type of aberration armament. All it could do was check how well someone matched up with it. It didn't give anyone special powers. Once a person officially became part of the Blazing Blood Combat Division, they'd get access to stronger Beast Core and much better aberration armaments. The guy stood up and let everyone know it was time for the Beast Core affinity test to start. The first guy up was a D rank, and his affinity score landed at 39%. He couldn't help but feel down after seeing his name in 5th place on the physical exam. For him, this test was way tougher than fighting monsters. The next guy up was a D rank with a 56% affinity. He couldn't stop grinning when he found out he made it and would get to join the Blazing Blood team. After him, it was Jinx's turn. Jinx walked up, his eyes looking red. He reached down and grabbed the stone. He picked up the wrist guard and set it in place, making sure it was secure. He told it what to do and expected it to listen. The screen flashed his score, D rank with an affinity of 605. He stared at it for a moment, not sure how to react. It wasn't great, but at least it wasn't the lowest. Still, he couldn't help but hope for something better. Everyone stared in disbelief when they saw the score. Last year's top rookie had only managed 56%, so this was a big deal. Some people started thinking he might actually be the strongest contender this time around. Meanwhile, Jin didn't hold back his opinion. He looked around at the others like they didn't even measure up to him, pretty much acting like he was the top dog in the room. Watched as the guy, looking all confident, stepped off the stage, walked over to him, interested. She wondered if he was from Kai Kai City, surprised she hadn't heard about someone this strong before. She let him know she was basically the person at the Technical Bureau, which made it even more surprising that he'd managed to avoid her attention until now. He couldn't help but feel a bit impressed with himself. She figured out pretty quickly that the weird spike in crimson mists around Kai Kai City a few days back was probably because of him. He acted like he didn't know what she was talking about, but it was obvious he was just trying to cover it up. She let him know that she understood, even if he wasn't ready to say anything back. She just wanted to make it clear that she was really into him. He saw an opening and decided to get some answers out of Ms. Know-It-All. She nodded and went along with the plan. But there was a catch. If his score ended up higher than hers, things would play out differently. She's ready to spill whatever he asks. She heard her name and realized it was her turn to step up. She got everyone to look her way and let them know she was going to beat Jin's record. Started to wonder just how strong she really was, while Jin couldn't help himself and threw some insults her way. She picked up the black stone, turning it over in her hand. It felt heavier than she expected, almost like it was hiding something important inside. Her heart started to beat a little faster as she wondered what this weird stone could mean and why it seemed to stand out from everything else around her. She started turning it around in her hands, checking it out from every angle. He set it down right on the wrist guard. The results popped up. She was a D rank with 78% affinity. The room went quiet for a second as everyone took in the number. That's when they realized who she was, the girl from. She couldn't help but smile, her happiness obvious on her face. She went down and made sure everyone noticed that she just beat Jin's record. Jin felt his anger rising. There was no way he could just let her walk away after what she'd done. His name got called last, making him wait longer than everyone else. Ever since he found out how strong she really was, he'd started to believe she wasn't making things up. She probably knew way more than she let on. When looked over at him, she wanted to know if he was nervous about all this. He wanted to find out more about his sister, so he was set on winning the bet. He made sure she was paying attention, said his rank was at least C, and the beast core he used was black, just like the one he absorbed before. He started to wonder what his affinity rate would turn out to be. He set the stone on his wrist guard and got ready to find out just how much potential he really had. He thought he'd get a C rank, nothing crazy but still impressive since that's usually for squad leaders. He could already picture everyone staring at him, totally surprised. But then the system glitched. An error popped up, something nobody had ever seen before. The screen showed 0%. Jin couldn't help but laugh when he saw what happened. Honestly, he found it pretty funny that not even the beast core wanted anything to do with him. Stuck out his lower lip, clearly not happy with how things were going. He glanced down and noticed his wrist guard. A red mist started to spread out. His body started pulling in the beast core on its own, like he couldn't stop it even if he tried. Stared at his score, struggling to process that he really got a 0. Nobody else had ever done that badly. 1% was the lowest until now. He watched as she pulled out her phone to snap a picture, probably thinking the old man would get a kick out of this. Jin couldn't hide his sly grin when he spotted the beast core. Without wasting any time, he went and told everyone that was the one who took it. Right away, told to lift his hand so he could check out the wrist guard and the beast core. He noticed it was missing. He looked around, trying to figure out where it went. He wanted answers, but just shrugged, looking clueless. The whole thing got pretty awkward, with neither of them knowing what to say next. He needed to come up with an excuse right away, or he was going to end up being tested on like some science experiment. He decided to take a risk. He pretended his transformation was just a special power used by the beast core. He held out his hands, his fingers curled and sharp like claws, letting everyone see for themselves. Jin froze, his eyes wide. Something unexpected just happened, and he stared, trying to figure out what it was. Didn't waste a second. He grabbed his weapons and got the word out to everyone around him. He made sure the others started pulling back, staying sharp and ready for whatever was coming. His eyes lit up as soon as he saw the whole thing happen. He couldn't help but get pumped, like he was watching something wild and awesome unfold right in front of him. Jin started to worry the guy might be infected. Shin motioned for everyone to move back again. He made up his mind to handle things right away. Grabbed her phone and called, just wanting to know if he could hear her on the other end. He looked at her, waiting for an answer, not really sure what she meant. Blinked, realizing he actually felt pretty normal. He'd half expected to be freaking out, but his mind was still clear. Just acted like it was no big deal. He explained that the beast core had this special power, and out of nowhere it kicked in for him. After that, everything changed. Felt pretty relieved. He realized he hadn't lost control, so this had to be some kind of transformation power. She couldn't help but get hyped because nothing like this had ever happened before. Pointed out that he was incredibly lucky. Being able to change back to normal without any help was something nobody ever saw. It was super rare. Started to wonder who really was. She seemed to know a lot more than most people, and that got him thinking. She just smiled, acting like she had all the answers. Let everyone know she was a top pick for the position and worked as a senior researcher at the Technical Intelligence Bureau. Her dad, Major General Jin En, actually led the whole technology research and development department. When he accidentally spilled some secrets about her, she got frustrated. Her cool, mysterious image was basically gone. Young Shin cut the conversation short and looked at, asking him to give up the beast core. Things weren't going well for him, and he knew it. He admitted he wasn't refusing because he wanted to keep the beast core for himself. The thing clung to him and just wouldn't let go. Jin caught what was said and right away decided he should tell the Green Vine crew about it. In his mind, seemed like the perfect guy to try this out on. He waited outside the radiology room, trying to keep calm while his mind raced with thoughts about what might happen next. The hallway was quiet, and every little sound made him glance up, hoping for some news. How got scanned by a machine. He stood there, not really sure what to expect, while the machine did its thing. The whole process felt weird, and he couldn't help but wonder what the machine was looking for. The researchers stared at the guy, trying to process what they were seeing. They'd never heard of someone having a beast core actually grow inside their body before. Since the core was already fused with him, taking it out wasn't really an option. Everyone turned to Director Jin, waiting to see what he'd say. He thought it was something worth looking into. There were definitely more secrets hiding there, and he could sense it. Major General Jin En, who worked as the Deputy Director of the Technical Intelligence Bureau, seemed to know a lot more than he let on. Two guys walked in and started asking about what was going on and who the kid was. He wanted to know if the Blazing Blood were still serious about their rule of only letting in people with at least 40% compatibility. Song, the Lieutenant General who led the Special Response Unit, had enough of the guessing games. He wanted straight answers and just wanted to know what was really happening. Was the one in charge of building the testing equipment with. If anyone knew the real numbers, it was him, and he was certain the result was 0. Waited, getting more impatient by the second. She kept glancing at her dad, hoping he'd just spit it out already. The whole secret thing was starting to get on her nerves. She really wanted to know what was going on with. Something just felt off. He pointed out that the machine's numbers shot way higher than usual. No one had ever seen compatibility like that before. The readings on the machine shot past what everyone thought was possible, going over the 100% mark. Didn't waste any time. He told to come with him right away. While all that was happening, sat inside the machine and watched as the beast core changed color, shifting from black to red. He guessed it had something to do with the small beast core getting absorbed. He remembered the last time he absorbed an Overlord-class aberration beast core. Not only did he gain its power, but it also set off the crystal core inside him. This time was different, though. Absorbing a weaker beast core didn't give him any new abilities, but he could tell the beast core itself had gotten stronger. The deep black color faded, turning into a rusty red. The storage for the crimson mist went up, and it could absorb that mist even better than before. Now it looked like a dark reddish-brown metal, kind of dull with random dark spots, almost like something old and worn out. Basically, the tougher the beast he takes down, the more powerful he'll get from absorbing it. All this was happening at the Special Response Unit's Blazing Blood headquarters, and weren't getting along. Was clearly annoyed that had brought into the group and wanted to know why it was such a big deal for her to be on the squad with them. He told her to pay more attention to how she acted and spoke, especially around others. He also noticed she kept focusing on that new C-rank guy, maybe more than she should. She stood her ground in front of her dad, determined to keep her promise. She didn't want to be someone who just said things and didn't follow through, especially not when it mattered this much. Stood his ground, reminding her that soldiers swear loyalty to their country, not to one person. He let her know straight up that was already part of his team now, and there was no way to undo that. He wanted to know if she was really about to challenge another blood squad leader just to get a new recruit. After that, he told her to get back to her post. She didn't have much choice, so she went along with it. Still, in her mind, she wasn't ready to give up and started thinking about how she could get out of this. At the Blazing Blood Barracks lounge, everyone was hanging out when someone suddenly brought some big news. The whole place perked up, guys looking over to see what was going on, curious about what could be so important. It felt like the kind of update you'd see blowing up in group chats, and everyone wanted to know more. Reached out with some news. She let him know that the nest they'd just found between Lake City and City was already getting attention, with rookie scouts heading over to check it out. Had gone ahead and asked instructor Yang Shin if they could join up and go as a team. Got ranked as a C and joined the special response team called Blazing Blood, which worked under the squad. Later gathered everyone and explained what they had to do. Their job was to check things out and figure out how dangerous the place really was. He reminded them to keep their guard up. Even though the area was known as a nest, that strange red mist could have changed things, so they couldn't take any chances. Worked as a D-rank senior researcher at the Technical Intelligence Bureau. She ended up joining squad, mainly because she was good at collecting data. She figured that was enough reason to bring him along. The beast nests were ranked by how dangerous they were. Low, medium, high, and extremely high. Some of them didn't fit perfectly into just one level, so people would say stuff like high to medium, depending on how tough the creatures inside seemed. The place they were heading to was a hive-type nest. From the outside, it looked pretty basic, nothing too special, but once you got inside, the tunnels twisted all over the place, almost like a maze. The real danger, though, was hidden deeper inside. A huge cloud of stinger bees filled the air, with tons of worker bees buzzing around and just a few soldier bees standing out. Hao looked at the scene, wondering if it really took 3 cars full of people to handle something like a hornet's nest. It seemed unreal to him that one person couldn't just deal with it on their own. Explained that iron bees were nothing like regular honey bees. Right after that, the driver spotted something off. Looked outside and noticed the bees buzzing around. He hadn't expected the bees to be that huge. Just like mentioned before, these were Scout-class iron bees, and they looked nothing like the regular honeybees he was used to seeing. The driver was a patrolman, nobody really knew his name, who'd switched over to some special response team. As the car sped up, he glanced back, letting the guys know it was about to get bumpy. The bees let their stingers out. The way they came at them made it clear to that the armored car didn't stand a chance. Stepped up to take care of the swarm outside. This was his chance to test out the new move he'd been working on. His door started to sag and drip, turning into a weird puddle right in front of him. He quickly got out of the car, motioning for everyone else to get to safety and get ready to protect themselves. He takes a deep breath and rushes straight at the bees. The patrolman couldn't believe what he'd just seen. Someone actually using a door as a weapon. That was something you don't see every day. He stood there trying to figure out what kind of skill could pull that off. Stepped in to clear things up, explaining it was some kind of transformation power. She also let him know that back during the assessment had taken in a beast core. Back then, he was only able to change his own appearance, so she never thought he could use his power on other things too. She lit up when she found out he could change regular stuff into weapons. The idea of checking out his fighting moves and collecting his stats for later totally had her attention. She planned to keep a close eye on him once they got back. Out of nowhere, something flew straight at him. Green slime shot right through his arm. This creature was tougher than the rest. It could actually get past his guard, which wasn't normal. He knew he had to find out where it was coming from, or else he'd get tired out before long. He let everyone know there was still another enemy out there, but nobody knew where. He told the group to watch out and stay hidden. They ducked down behind a rock, trying to stay out of sight. One of the guys from the special response team took off in the opposite direction, mentioning that iron bees didn't like fire. While he rushed away, tried to warn him not to leave. Right after he moved, green spikes shot out and hit him. Flames rushed over him, wrapping around his whole body in an instant. Looked over at, curious about the green spikes and wanting to know where they came from. She spotted a hound-class queen bee. Its tail had a stinger loaded with venom strong enough to eat through weaker armor. She was surprised to see a hound class here. That meant the info she got was off, and this nest was way more dangerous than she thought. He asked his friends to handle the scout-class iron bees, so he could go after the queen bee himself. She nodded, ready to go. She had wind powers, the kind that let her control the air around her. When things got serious, she let loose and a storm started swirling, showing everyone what she could really do. The wind picked up and scattered the iron bees, sending them tumbling through the air. Everyone watched as the queen bee appeared. It was way bigger than the others, and you could feel everyone's attention shift right away. The whole place got quieter, like everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Finally understood. The bee was huge and looked like it meant business. He grabbed the doorknob and gave it a turn. He shaped it into something that looked like a spear with 2 blades. He got ready to go in, bracing himself for what was coming next. He put everything he had into that throw. The spear shot through the air, moving faster than anyone expected. The ball smacked right into the queen bee. Landed his strike right where it should have mattered most, but the thing didn't even flinch. Started to question how a hound class could actually be that strong. She couldn't help but come up with her own idea about it. She told to make sure it didn't get away. Could tell the creature was about to get way stronger, probably hitting some next-level tier. But he was totally wiped out, so he just flopped onto the ground and let it go. With no crimson mist left to recharge, his energy disappeared almost right away. He really wished he'd saved some up so he could have taken on the queen bee. Glanced over and noticed how out of it he looked, barely moving at all. She couldn't help but poke fun at how lifeless he seemed, even joking around about whether he needed some dramatic rescue just to get a reaction from him. He shrugged off the idea, saying he wasn't into hanging out with younger kids. That answer bugged her, and she looked pretty irritated. During their break, she handed her a Snickers bar. He let her know that hunger wasn't the reason he was feeling low on energy. The guys were still snacking when the rest of the group showed up. Everyone checked in to see if they were all right. Let them know nothing was wrong, and pointed out that they needed to clear the area and set up a spot to rest for now. He also reminded everyone that someone should let the others know what happened. Was quick to mention she'd already taken care of letting people know. They checked the hive and saw that the queen bee had returned. The crimson mist inside the nest wasn't that thick yet, so they could head in as long as they wore their protective suits. Figured it made sense to wait for backup, but she noticed the queen was hurt. This seemed like the perfect chance to get some info and take it down. The nest was more dangerous now, sitting at high-medium on the threat scale. If they pulled this off, they'd finish a mission tougher than what they usually handled, and the rewards would be pretty sweet. Over at the Special Response Unit headquarters, inside the Chief of Staff's office, things were starting to heat up. New things were messy at the top. It wasn't just folks like them pushing for him to become some big-time fighter. There were also these intense scientists in the mix, all hyped about using him for their experiments instead. He asked to watch over, since there was something different about him. Out of nowhere's phone buzzed with a message that looked important. Noticed right away and told to check it. He got a message saying the danger level at Nest, where the others were checking things out, was going up fast. Was already inside. Couldn't believe what he was hearing. Might look like someone you can't count on, but she always pays attention to the small stuff. She's not the type to mess up like this, so started thinking that something wasn't right here. He called for backup right away, sending the closest Blazing Blood Unity squad. Was picked to head the team and told to move out fast. Their main job was to keep him safe, but they also had to wipe out the beast nest. Walked in just then. Was surprised he thought was still at the hospital. Explained, too, that his brother had been keeping an eye on. He wanted to know if that was going to be an issue, but just shook his head, letting him know it was fine. He told Young to go straight to and start working as her right-hand guy right away. Suddenly remembered that he was the one who set things up so his brother could be with before. Went ahead and did it for his daughter, even though he didn't really get why she cared so much about the details. While and walked around the nest, they were the only ones wearing those special suits that could block out the red mist. Really wanted things to work out without any problems. She noticed the energy numbers on the screen were pretty much the same as before. But once the queen bee from before levels up into an overlord, taking down the hive gets way tougher. Hao picked up on something weird, so he signaled for her to pause. The queen bee walked in. This time, the enemy was a mutated queen bee covered in iron armor. She looked way bigger than usual, and the weird mouth thing on her tail made her seem like a boss-level threat. She stared, not quite sure if she was seeing things right. The creature had actually evolved, even though there wasn't much of that red mist around. Normally, that wasn't supposed to happen so fast. The other scout class poison needle bees had gotten stronger, too. She noticed the crimson mist was way thicker than it should be, way past any safe limit. It didn't make sense to her, especially since the analyzer hadn't given them any heads up. She dropped down to her knees, clutching her chest as she started to cough. She saw right away that someone had messed with the protective suits. They didn't work as well against the crimson mist anymore. That made her start to wonder if someone in blazing blood was secretly working against them. The red mist started to get thicker. He grabbed her hand and quickly pulled her along as they hurried to get away. Even though he tried to hide it, he was actually kind of relieved that the crimson mist showed up, especially since he'd been stressing about running out. Still, he couldn't focus on that yet. He had to make sure was safe first. There was no way he could deal with the mist if he was worried about her. A huge rock suddenly dropped right in front of them, making everyone stop in their tracks. He pointed out a spot for her to hide, knowing it was tucked away and had plenty of fresh air. It wasn't perfect, but it seemed safe enough for her to wait things out for a bit. She told him to reach out to headquarters and get the reinforcements ready with protective suits. While he did that, he had to keep the weird creatures back on his own. She let him know she'd keep everyone posted with any new info from inside the nest and what was going on. Right before he heads out, she made it clear to him that if he tried to leave for good, she wouldn't just let it slide. No matter how far he ran, even if it meant going to the worst places, she'd follow him and wouldn't give up. He promised her he'd come back, sounding totally sure of himself. The queen bee spotted him. He stood in front of the mutated iron-armored poison needle queen bee, which was way tougher than the others. A few scout bees hovered nearby, looking just as ready for a fight. He felt relieved that he'd finally gotten strong enough to keep the people he cared about safe. This time he promised himself, just like he did with before, that he wouldn't mess up. The swarm moved straight at him. He was down to his last bit of red fog energy, just enough for one final shot. There was no room for mistakes now. He tried to pull all the energy into his hand, concentrating hard and hoping he was doing it right. He set off the attack, unleashing the crimson condensation blast. The explosion was massive. It shook the ground and sent out a wave that everyone nearby could feel, like a punch to the chest. People stopped what they were doing and looked over, eyes wide, not sure what had just happened. You could spot that even if you were standing outside the hive. He wasn't sure if it actually did anything, so he waited, watching for any sign that something had changed. But then, the red mist started to drift across everything. The bees made it out just fine. He just stood there, staring, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. 3 minutes earlier, was staring at the analyzer, trying to wrap her head around why it was acting weird. She just fixed it herself, making sure it would give the right reading for the crimson mist. Now, seeing the numbers off again, she was frustrated and confused, wondering who would mess with her work. The warning popped up, letting her know that the crimson mist had gone way past the safe zone. The numbers on the screen were insane, way over double what was supposed to trigger an alarm. Out of nowhere, a rush of wind brushed past her. She thought something must have blown up outside. Things definitely weren't going as planned. After the explosion, the red fog got even heavier, swirling around and making it harder to see anything. After taking in all that thick red mist, the bee swarms started changing fast. Even the weakest ones, the scouts, leveled up and turned into hound-class bees. Nobody could believe it. They actually attacked. He realized there were more of them now, and they seemed tougher than before. Even though the red fog was supposed to help him recover, it just wasn't enough to keep up with how much energy he was burning. If things keep going like this, he's going to run out of energy. Started to doubt if he could keep going. She spotted something off about his neck. There was a strange reddish mark spreading across his skin. Right away, she figured that his protective suit wasn't working right, probably messed with somehow. Her eyes flicked to the measuring device, checking for more signs of trouble. The numbers on the screen kept climbing higher. She could tell Hal was about to snap. She helped him out by clearing the red mist that surrounded him first. She let out a blast of wind, sending a strong gust rushing forward. When she saw the right moment, she set off the explosion, stood there, not really sure what was going on as the red mist that had surrounded him suddenly disappeared. He let out a curse under his breath when he realized his energy was gone. The bees let out their stingers, each one glowing green as they dart through the air. He raised his forearm just in time and managed to block the hit. The stingers jabbed into his arm, and right away he noticed something weird. His muscles started to freeze up, getting heavy and hard to move, almost like his whole arm was falling asleep. More stingers shot out behind him. He realized there was no way to get out of the way. Out of nowhere, someone showed up. He stepped in front and took the hits himself, using his body to stop the stings. stood there. He was a C-rank strength type, known for being tough and hard to knock down. Stuff like making his body stronger, turning his skin tougher, and picking up on things most people would miss came naturally to him. All that came from his beast core, which was from an overlord pangolin. Right as things were still heating up, he called out to, reminding him to stay sharp. The battle wasn't finished yet. Bees started swarming all around them, buzzing close and making it hard to think about anything else. 1 second, the thing was just standing there. Then, out of nowhere, lasers sliced right through it. It was the one behind it. She was a C-rank elemental, the kind who could mess around with electricity, stuff like sending out lightning, pulling off shots, and even controlling iron sand or messing with electronics. Her power all came from a massive eel core, so her skills packed a serious punch. When House spotted her, he wanted to know what she was doing there. Let him know that orders had come down from HQ. They were there to back him up. Wasting no time, she told her squad to get moving and wipe out the bugs. Her team didn't hesitate. They rushed in right after her, ready to clear the place out. Team A held back anyone trying to move forward, blasting the area with intense heat. Meanwhile, Team B focused on the middle zone, lighting it up with bursts of fire, and got the signal to pull back and take a breather. They didn't argue, just did what they were told and headed out. While all this was happening, the Queen Bee had already set her sights on them. Some of the guys who noticed it early tried to give everyone else a heads up, told everyone to keep running and not turn around. She hadn't planned on the Queen Bee being this strong, definitely not some regular monster. Realizing this, she knew she had no choice but to use her special move. This was the electromagnetic annihilation attack. A massive surge of electricity crackled through the air, creating a powerful electric field that reached out across everything nearby. Anything caught in its range would get fried and completely shut down, left totally useless. They watched as she struck out and hit something in the air. Soon enough, they noticed it was the Queen Bee, the same one from the mission notes. The Queen tried to fly higher to get away, but had already hit it with a paralyzing move, so it wasn't going anywhere fast. She quickly gave orders to wipe out the rest of the bees nearby so they could focus on the rescue without anything getting in the way. Was seriously impressed by how strong she turned out to be. Looked pretty pleased when brought up what happened last time in City. Hadn't even brought her main gear, and without her combat suit, she couldn't even use all her abilities. She scanned the area trying to spot, noticed and nodded his head in its direction. Not long after, his voice called out to her, catching her attention. She mentioned that if she'd shown up just 10 minutes later, things would turn out way worse. On the way back, she reminded him that he owed her a meal or something, since she'd saved him before too. They finished rescuing the injured, which was their first task. Once that was done, they waited to hear what they were supposed to do next. She got her orders to wipe out the swarm and get rid of the beast nest for good. While everyone was gearing up, took a quick break to recharge his Crimson Mist energy. Earlier, he'd fired the Crimson Mist cannon at the Queen Bee, but it didn't get the job done, so he knew he'd have to give it another shot. He took a moment to catch his breath, letting the tiredness fade away as his strength slowly returned. He noticed a sound nearby, catching his attention. Everyone tensed up and started paying attention. The Queen Bee pulled in all the red mist from around the nest, drawing it into herself until nothing was left drifting in the air. It seemed like it was about to level up again. The reader gave them a heads up that things were about to get past level 4. Started noticing all the crimson mist everywhere, which made her curious. She began to think the beast nest might be way stronger than they thought. The Queen Bee buzzed so loudly that everyone nearby looked over, wondering what was going on. That caused a bunch of Hound-class bees to suddenly show up at the back. Told the group to focus on the swarm while he went after the Queen Bee himself. He seemed pretty sure of himself, like he had some plan that would work. Told everyone to go after the swarm and make sure it was protected. Knew he had to end it right then, or everyone inside was done for. He kept hitting it over and over. He tried using his claws, but they just didn't do the job. He let out another red blast, watching it shoot forward. Something went off right there, making everyone jump. He watched the smoke slowly clear, hoping his plan had actually worked. But before he could even relax, the thing lashed out with its stinger, catching him off guard. He saw that blasting it with energy wasn't doing the trick. If he wanted to finish this, he needed something better. That's when he spotted the Queen Bee's stinger lying nearby. He grabbed it and got ready, using a special coil to power up. He gripped his weapon like it was a sword, keeping his eyes locked on the Queen Bee. As it tried to strike, he dodged out of the way, moving in closer. He gathered up the last bit of his Crimson Mist energy, wrapping it all around his weapon, getting ready for the next move. He got ready to do something good in return for getting a weapon. He gripped it, not wanting to let go. He went all in and cut straight through the Queen Bee. The blast went off again up in the sky. After that, the only thing left from the Queen Bee was the red beast core. It was known as an Overlord-class beast core, but he managed to take it down. The moment he touched it, a sharp pain shot through his chest. The energy from the object was intense, rushing straight into the crystal core inside him and filling it up right away. He reached his limit. While and his squad fought through the swarm, things got pretty intense. After a tough battle, they managed to take down every last one. Noticed he wasn't at his best. He felt drained. Didn't waste any time and told everyone to hurry over and back up. She spotted him lying on the ground. Right away, she looked worried as she called out for him, hoping he was okay. Was out cold. The team set him up to a monitor, watching as his heart rate shot up and his brain signals jumped all over the place. He'd been around the red mist for way too long, and now there was always this risk that he could just snap without warning. Told to get into the medical pod and shut down the neural signals. They set up at a temporary camp just outside the nest. One of the special response unit guys who didn't have a name tag noticed something was up with and looked over, kind of concerned. Let him know was okay, not making a big deal out of it. Staying focused, told to keep an eye on the medical pod and tweak the settings if needed, since she knew her way around the tech. The medical pod powered on, and inside the machine started giving an anesthetic shot. Let know it was just a quick patch-up. They still had to hurry back to headquarters for real help and understood that. Inside's mind, things were getting rough. A stronger, beastly version of himself had him pinned, hands tight around his throat. The other was trying to force him to give in, pushing him to let go and accept the transformation that was coming. He figured this was it for him. His mind flashed to his parents and his sister, and he felt bad for letting them down. He realized it was done, and there was nothing left to do. He looked over and saw his parents cheering him on to keep going. Was there, too, reminding him about his promise to come back okay. He realized she was still waiting for him. His coworkers crowded around him, not letting him drift off or quit. Wouldn't let him throw in the towel either. They kept pushing him, reminding him he still had it in him. He looked around and saw that everyone had stopped what they were doing and was just standing there, all eyes on him. He realized the fight was still going. With everything on the line, he dug deep, knowing he had to make it out alive. His sister was still out there and people were counting on him. No way was he giving up now. He realized it wasn't all on him. His other self had to deal with it too. He managed to pull himself together and got control over that stronger side of him, locking it away. After that, he tried to bring his other self back, knowing everyone else was waiting. It fused with him, and right then, he realized getting stronger always came at a cost. Every time he pushed past his limits, it felt like he was barely keeping himself from falling over a cliff. He started to wake up, but his eyes stayed shut, and his body just wouldn't respond no matter how hard he tried. Meanwhile, cars nearby were already starting to drive off. The sandstorm hit so hard that they couldn't see anything ahead. Driving any further just wasn't safe. Let know there was an old city ruins about 3 kilometers up the road. He figured they could head over there and use it for shelter. Wanted to know how was doing. Checked and saw that its vitals were steady, but he still hadn't woken up. Once she found out what was going on, she told to head straight for the ruins. She also made sure the cars behind them got the message and followed along. The guys finally made it to the ruins. The place looked old and kind of mysterious, like something out of a history video. They slowed down a bit, taking it all in, not really sure what to expect next. 3 army trucks rolled through the gates and came to a stop. The people inside got the signal to hop out and take a break. Noticed right away that something wasn't right with the place. Trusting her instincts, she told to quickly check the area, making sure the building was safe, keeping an eye on that weird red fog and scanning for any heat signatures just in case. She told her guys to keep an eye on while he was on the pod, since that's what the top brass wanted. They had no idea, but someone was watching from 1 floor above. They got jumped. Suddenly arrows came flying at them out of nowhere. Spotted the enemy moving in fast, so he signaled for everyone to get down. In the middle of the chaos, an arrow came flying right at him. He braced himself and tensed up his arm, letting the arrow glance off without doing any real damage. Noticed the arrows looked weird, kind of shiny and sticky, like someone had smeared something gross on them. He realized it was the nasty stuff from a venomous stinger wasp. A massive boulder suddenly dropped from above, heading straight for the group. Quickly took control, signaling everyone to move out of the way. She quickly knocked the pod aside, making sure it was safe and out of trouble. She managed to slip out of the way right before the boulder crashed down. Chunks of debris shot through the air. Moved fast, using his tough body to shield from getting hurt. Out of nowhere, a group of guys turned up. They were bandits, clearly there to steal whatever they could find. The first thing they did was start tossing glass bottles. Looked at the thing, curious about what it could be. When it broke apart, a cloud of green gas suddenly came out. She noticed right away that the stuff on the ground came from a Dominator-class mutated beast. The gas coming off it could freeze anyone in their tracks. The bandits rushed straight at them, ready for a fight. A massive guy built like a tank and carrying an axe set his sights on. She dodged him easily and landed a solid kick right where it hurts. The guy got knocked back so hard, he slammed right into the wall on the other side. But right after that, she noticed something stuck to the pod. Her legs suddenly gave out when the numbness hit, and she collapsed to the ground. As soon as the bandits got the hook locked on, they started yanking hard. Watching the guys guarding that metal box so fiercely, the bandits figured there had to be something valuable inside. Ran after it, trying to keep them from getting too close. He wanted to handle things himself, and really didn't want anyone else to mess with him. Just then, an arrow came out of nowhere and hit her right in the ankle. She hit the ground hard, scraping her knee. Blood started to trickle down her leg, but she barely noticed it. All she could do was watch as got dragged off, her heart sinking as he disappeared from sight. Inside the pod, something strange happened too. A U-shaped mark showed up on his upper chest, running from one side of his neck to the other. Thin lines stretched out from the ends of the U, reaching both his shoulders. The mark gave off a soft, faint glow. Was hurting, but she wasn't thinking about herself. All she cared about was making sure was safe. Tried to help, pulling out the arrow and telling her to hold on. In his mind, everything felt wrong was gone and now was injured too. It was the kind of moment where nothing seemed to go right and couldn't help but blame himself. She snapped the arrow in two, holding on to one half while the other piece dropped to the ground. They patched her up as best as they could for now and told her to stay still. As looked around, she started to realize the bandits had planned this whole thing ahead of time. The way they set up the ambush before anyone even showed up was weird, and it got her thinking about how the bandits seemed to know their exact route. After a while, let everyone know the area was safe. Most of the bandits had already gotten away while they were sick from the poison. Outside, a heavy sandstorm was going on, so figured there was no way they could have taken up to the surface. That made her think they must have taken him somewhere underground. Her crew stumbled onto an old, empty elevator shaft. From the way things looked, it probably led straight to the enemy's hideout. Wasting no time, she rounded up her team and got everyone ready to move out. The team's next move was a close-quarters fight to get back. Told A-Team to cover the exit and watch over, making sure nothing slipped past them. Meanwhile, and Team B would head down with, getting ready to face whatever was waiting below. Made it clear, messing up wasn't something she'd accept. One of the guys from the Special Response Unit wanted to join Screw, but shut that down. He wasn't trained for combat, and no one knew what kind of trouble they'd run into down there. So A-Team stayed up top with him, and holding their ground and keeping things under control while the others prepared to move in. He couldn't just stand by and do nothing, not when was his best friend, the guy who'd saved him before. Now that was in trouble, he knew he had to step up no matter what. Finally gave in. She shot him a look and told him to stick right by her side, making sure he wouldn't get lost. The bandits showed up at their base, all of them a bit tired from dragging the heavy coffin. They grumbled about how much it weighed, but at the same time, they couldn't help but wonder what was inside. Everyone was hoping it would be something valuable. One of the guys had an axe with him and stepped forward, signaling for the others to move aside. He lifted his axe. He slammed his hand down on the pod. The bandit leader was the first to try opening the pod. He thought it would be easy, but the thing was way tougher than he expected. They grabbed crowbars and sledgehammers, swinging and prying at it, but nothing worked. Tools broke, but the pod didn't move at all. There was this guy, probably close to their age, who stepped up and said he could open it for them. But there was a catch. He wanted everyone to head down to the lower level first. The bandit leader just shrugged it off, thinking it was pointless since there was nothing at the bottom except a blocked path. Besides, the last three guys who tried going in never showed up again. Everyone started laughing at the kid and making fun of him, but the guy stayed serious, saying he saw a key down there that could actually open it. The bandit leader was getting pretty irritated and yanked the kid up by his collar. That guy stepped in and made an offer. If the kid could open it, they'd let him walk away. If not, the bandit leader could do whatever he wanted. The whole thing felt tense, with everyone waiting to see what would happen next. The bandit leader made it clear with a threat, no messing around, or else. Hao listened to what they said and quickly realized he must landed right in the middle of the enemy's hideout. Ever since his beast core leveled up, his senses had gotten way sharper. Now he could pick up on everything around him, even what was going on far below the ground. He could tell how his body was doing. His beast core was a rusty red color, and he had about 2/3 of his crimson fog left. When he changed into beast form, he had sharp claws and could tangle things up. He picked up some new tricks too, like the crimson fog bomb and a poison gland. He figured the poison gland probably came from the queen bee he fought earlier. The bandits made it to the lower level, and right away, they noticed a massive fossil lying there. The whole place felt tense. They kept an eye on the guy, making sure he didn't try anything sneaky. The guy pointed at one of the big old bones, letting them know that's where the key was hidden. The leader didn't waste any time and told his crew to haul the pod over to that spot. As they messed around with the box, it suddenly blew up. The blast threw the guys back, knocking them off their feet and leaving them stunned. The box just popped open on its own, got up right away, and let out a poison gland. Everyone in the room suddenly started coughing, clutching at their throats and trying to catch their breath. It hit all at once, catching them off guard, and for a moment no one knew what to do. Was into the skill, it made handling groups way easier. The bandit leader had no idea someone was hiding inside, so it totally caught him off guard. He figured they let those guys take him on purpose, thinking it was all part of some plan to sneak into the hideout, but honestly was completely lost. None of it made sense to him. The bandit leader stepped forward, making sure the kid knew he was a D-class warrior. He wanted to make it clear that taking someone like him out wouldn't be a challenge at all. The way he acted made it obvious. He thought getting rid of the kid would be no harder than stepping on a bug. He couldn't believe they were pulling cheap tricks, and anger pushed him to go after his opponent. Didn't hold back, he triggered his poison gland again, ready to fight back even harder. He stepped forward and landed a punch right on the bandit leader's face. The bandit leader slammed into the wall so hard that it left a dent. The noise startled someone nearby, and that made look over. Hao turned to the guy and motioned for him to give it a shot, curious if he wanted to test his own strength. The kid suddenly collapsed right there. Once everything with the humans was over, he finally took a look around. The place was full of skeletons from mutated beasts scattered everywhere. He checked out the skeletons and noticed they were all messed up, not the kind of damage you see from just getting old or anything. It was obvious they hadn't died by accident. Someone had put them there on purpose, making them fight until the end, kind of like some twisted underground arena. He picked up on electromagnetic buzz, even though he was 10 floors below. He noticed she still got fired up just like always. Suddenly, the bandits raised their weapons and pulled the trigger. Bullets tore through the air, echoing across the area as everyone ducked for cover. The sound of gunfire filled the space, making hearts race and adrenaline spike. Tensed up and chased after them, he stepped forward and kicked one of the bandits. After a while, the team managed to lock down the place. Still, nobody could figure out how it all happened. Told everyone to keep looking. Claw marks from mutated beasts were all over the place, catching everyone's attention right away. It got them thinking there had to be something hidden around here. As they walked closer to the pit, one of the soldiers checked his detector and saw that whatever they were tracking was right underneath. But just as quickly as the signal showed up, it was gone. Saw what happened and instantly thought the pod was probably wrecked. That meant could be in real trouble now. Out of nowhere, Hao climbed out of the pit, carrying an unconscious dude over his shoulder. Everyone noticed right away he was back, and it was clear he'd gotten way stronger.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.